And of course, the best thing to do after that is simply to stand on one leg, and anybody can say this, but it sounds almost too simple, but really the best practice for balance is just to practice balance, just to simply stand on one leg and see how stable you can be. Walls and chairs and supports are good, but you want to get in the habit of letting go of those at least at a bit at a time. And the balance phase is how long you can be on one leg at a time. So I just wanted to throw those two little things. Well, there's a number of exercises within that, but it's mainly that how you come up and down from a chair, and can you keep your weight back on your heels, and then practice just standing on one leg. And these are just, what's really great about this kind of stuff is it's stuff you can do all day long. And that's really what creates the best strength and development of a skill, is something that can be continually practiced. I recently heard somebody talk about like samurai sword fighting, and they say that the best the best skilled martial artists are practicing all day long, even when they're going to the grocery store. They're like thinking about how their swords move. And I think we can do the same thing with our balance and how we move in general.
That's great. That's the whole principle of nutritious exercise, right? Like as you've talked
about.
Yeah,
exactly.
We need certain things for nutrition and certain things for exercise, but we should be doing it continually rather than just like 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, nutrition is a good metaphor, because it if you extrapolate that, like, you wouldn't expect yourself to get a full, nutritious, balanced diet by eating only one meal a day. Right. You have to, in order to absorb all the right balance of nutrients, we need to have multiple meals throughout the day, or at least 2 or 3. And it's the same thing with movement. We need to be moving much of the day in order to really get the benefits.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean exercise all day long. That's the difference. It doesn't mean you have to be out running or doing like cardiovascular stuff. It just means that our body needs to have some changes in position more often than staying in one seated posture.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really great advice, Patrick. Wow. Well, good. Thank you very much.
Any thoughts or questions on that, or we can come back to that later?
Absolutely. Great, Patrick. Just one quick thing.
Hi, Tom.
Something else I think is important to be aware of for anyone is that a lot of us tend to, when we get up, lead with our head, which for people with cervical dystonia is a big no-no. To be very careful about leaning before we get up and moving that head, that forward head posture before getting up. That tends to be almost the first move. Do you find that the people you work with and your observations is that movement tends to be?
Oh, absolutely. It's that sort of leaning. Yeah. And that you can even say that's even like pan-cultural. Like, we do much of what we do in our life is leaning with the head. This is our reading our books, it's looking at the computers, it's driving, it's everything tends to be that. So we need a real good anti-practice for that, something to like really train ourselves to keep that head back, neutral over the shoulders. Standing and sitting from a chair are definitely a place to practice that, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Really good.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thanks.
What we hear from Tom and Mickey, do you want to say anything now at this point?
Unmute. There we go. Got to unmute myself. Well, firstly, it's lovely to see some faces that I haven't seen for a long time. So it's nice to see some again. I haven't seen, so it's good to see you all again. We can definitely do some exercises and stuff too, but I think it's also important to differentiate between balance and dizziness. They're different, right? And being dizzy can make you lose your balance and can make you fall over, but balance in itself doesn't necessarily mean that you're dizzy. So there is a distinction between the two of them. And we know that balance is multifactorial. There's lots of factors that are involved in how well you balance and what you do. And some of those factors Patrick's already addressed, right? But strength is a key one. And we don't always think that you've got to be strong to be balanced, but you really do. And then practice is really important. your vision is really important. What kind of glasses you wear? Do you wear progressives? And I think particularly for folks with dystonia, if we're adding a progressive lens to a dystonia, that's a whole other kettle of fish, right? That's really challenging. And then your environment, you know, is your environment a safe environment to wander around in? Do you have too much stuff? Do you have things on the floor that you can trip over really easily? And if you're not tracking that stuff very well, that puts you at more risk for having a fall. We don't want you to fall, because when you fall, you break things.
Yeah.
I'm 5 weeks post-surgery now, so so you don't want to break things. And then your medications, what medications are you on? We know that if people are on more than 3 medications, that puts them at higher risk for falls and balance issues. What's the sensation like in your feet? Particularly for those of us as we get a little older, it's really common to start to lose some of that fine sensation in your feet. So you don't really know where you are very well when you're on the ground. So that's another piece to think about. And just, you know, and have you fallen? If you have fallen, that makes you more at risk for falling again, right? That's just statistically, we know that if you've fallen once, you're likely to fall again. And are you a faller? Because a lot of people don't want to recognize that they are. And if they are a faller, are you addressing that? And going out walking isn't necessarily going to address that, right? So if you've got some of these fundamental pieces that haven't been addressed, then you're putting yourself more at risk by going out and doing something walking, which can actually be a high risk activity for you if your balance isn't very good. So I think those are all kind of things, and you know, practice with balance is huge, and lots of things we can do to get you stronger and better at it. Dizziness can be another thing, right? As Barb was talking about, you know, we've got the benign proximal vertigo issue. And then also, as Karen was talking about that sort of loss of, it's like a loss of being able to find the floor, right? It's a loss of horizon. You don't know where you are in space, and so all of a sudden the world is a very dizzy kind of a place. And that's, as Pat was saying, you know, that ties in with our neck. We've got our neck on body reflexes, our body on neck reflexes. We've got our writing reflexes. But with dystonia, everything's always, you know, there's always a bit of a wobble there, right? And so finding those places of equilibrium is hard. And there's exercises that you can do specifically for that, where we train your vestibular system and your visual system to be better when you're walking and when you're moving or even standing still. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth for the minute.
That's excellent. Yeah, we could talk, and maybe we'll come back to that. Maybe talk about some of those specific exercises. I think Tom was going to say something about that, actually.
Okay, sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, not at all. No, it's fine. I was just going to share how, first off, just to echo what you said regarding to make sure that we are very careful to describe what we're going through, be it vertigo, which is considered spinning, versus imbalance, disequilibrium. I think all these words, especially when we're seeing a doctor or therapist, that we are very clear about what we're going through. So what was described before about the BPPV and the benign positional proximal vertigo, that's an issue with crystals in the ear where they're dislodged. So the Epley maneuver puts them back into place. That experience is very different than what I think a lot of us probably experience when it comes to imbalance every single day. Also to just echo something you also said regarding your awareness and touching the ground. And then going back to Patrick, if everyone noticed, he's in bare feet. And I'm sure, Patrick, there's a reason for that, because you want to feel that grounded feeling, and you want to be able to touch the ground and touch the earth and be more aware of your surroundings. So that's I think a great thing to do. And Patrick, you can just jump in there and just share with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, especially if you ask about, like, you know, especially as people get older, if we talk about losing sensation in the feet, is it really, I mean, and this is the question, you can debate this, but is it really that it's because we're getting older, we're losing sensation at the feet, or is it because we've never used our feet throughout our life very much?
Not
you know, it's when when our feet are really,
Part of it.
yeah, exactly, lodged in shoes, we are not giving our feet the opportunity to move all the 33 joints that are in the feet. That each change of position of the joint gives our brain the feedback about how to balance. And if our feet are always on a flat level surface, we're not training that sort of feedback enough. So being barefoot and really mobilizing your feet is a really good thing also. I mean, as a generalized balance exercise, work on flexible feet.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted just to share was regarding my personal experiences and things that I've been doing recently. And it goes back to kind of what both Patrick and Mickey were talking about with regard to, and what you were saying, Dr. Hogan, regarding the various systems within the body and which one is off, so to speak, and how they integrate with each other. And therefore, how do we approach treatment, therapy, movements, exercise, etc. For me, what I've noticed recently, well, what I've done recently, I should say, I have had balance issues for a long time. I had spinning vertigo for a number of years. I experience balance issues where my body feels like it's kind of a half-played game of Jenga. If any of you are familiar with the game Jenga, because if you're dealing with cervical dystonia, then the rest of your body from below your neck has to compensate for that. So we're almost like walking around like a half-built building. And so the eyes have to work harder, the rest of the system has to work harder. And so for me, I mentioned the eyes because I've been recently working on stimulating my vagus nerve more often. I'm sure that's something that you've probably all heard of. I don't know a lot about it, so I can't really speak too intelligently about it, other than I've just been recently researching it a lot more. But I have found a couple of exercises, particularly with my head movement coupled with my eye movement. And in just less than a week's time, in doing just one of these 3 exercises I happen to find, I have actually had more mobility in my neck than I've had in probably 5 years. So I share that just because I've been trying a lot of different things, including, like Patrick was saying, was balance exercises, standing on one foot. In fact, for me, when I feel imbalanced, I create an unbalanced situation, and then I feel balanced. So if I'm standing still, I feel more imbalanced than if I'm actually moving or doing something. It's almost like it just reverses everything. So the areas I've been focusing on recently has been working with my eyes, and you can do simple eye tracking exercises, and you can look all these things up. But eye tracking exercises can be helpful. You can look up vagus nerve stimulation and look at the different exercises that could be done. But I will share, if you decide to do things like this, go very, very gently, because more than likely, most of these systems within the body, such as the vestibular or balance system, because our proprioceptors are so off in most cases, your body is probably going to be very easily challenged without doing too much. So very, very carefully go about doing this. For example, this one exercise I'm doing with my eyes now requires you to hold your eyes in a gaze off to one side for 30 seconds, which for me, I can't do because I get incredibly dizzy when I do that. So I only do 10 seconds, and I don't do 3 sets like they suggest. I only do 1 set of 10. So I'm slowly increasing the amount that I'm able to do. So those are 2 things I wanted to mention with regard to the eyes. The vagus nerve are 2 things to perhaps look into. Had some other thoughts too that are just not in my brain right now. They slipped out, but
They'll come out in a minute. So
yeah, hopefully.
what specific exercises for the vagus nerve are you doing?
The one that I'm doing right now, there's actually 2 I'm doing with my eyes, where I'm either laying down flat on the floor or sitting as upright as I can in a chair. And you can do eye tracking where you're looking straight ahead and then you find a line across in the distance, and you just slowly track your eyes to the left, and then slowly track them to center, and then slowly go tracking to the right on that line, and then back to center. But what I'm doing in addition to that is I am actually tilting my head into one direction and then pointing my eyes up into the corner, into the other direction. And I'm not going to do it now because I'm already kind of dizzy, and I get dizzier when I see them when I'm on video. So I'm not going to do it now, but the tilting of the head. Now, this is something that you may not want to do if you have cervical dystonia. You don't want to tell your body that if your neck turns this way, you don't want to turn it this way to favor it, and to tell that motor program in the brain that wants your body to do this, they don't want to reinforce that, is my point. So what I've been doing instead, because my head tilts this way, what I've been doing instead is I've been just shifting my body and my whole upper torso, and then looking up in the opposite direction, so I can kind of keep as neutral as possible. So I've been doing that for the last week, I think. Wow. And I've had this increased mobility. So just the eye tracking exercises, left, right, up and down.
Yeah.
And then the tilting of the body, and then just 10 to 15 seconds looking in the opposite direction diagonally. There are some other ones that you can do that are very similar, that they're a bit more challenging, and my body is not really up for doing them just yet, but laying on the floor and then leaning up. It's called a salamander position, or half salamander position. I forget exactly. I'm just learning about this now. But there are other things too. These are all designed to engage the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is helping to calm down the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze response. That's where that stress response is housed. So we try to engage the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve. And Patrick and Mickey and Dr. Hogan, you can probably talk about this far better than I can. But that's really important for so many functions in the body, and you can engage it with your vocal cords, with humming, with gargling, singing. I'm actually looking at some notes here to see what else I could find here that were cold water, actually flushed on the face, also is helpful. So maybe those who know more about the vagus nerve could perhaps elaborate on what I've shared, and how we can perhaps utilize this in our lives with our dystonia, because for me, I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, that's amazing, Tom. That's really great. I mean, these are a lot of the same principles that Dr. Farias talks about in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so that's really great to hear that you're already within a short time noticing some improvement. That's great tips, Tom. Mickey, did you say you had some specific exercises for the eyes yourself?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, real quick. I'm sorry, real quick. Something else that I've also done, and I don't know if I have a feeling others might do this as well. I have a short window of feeling well enough to do certain activities. And so what I often do is I rush through them frantically to try and get done as much as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
In the past couple of months, I would say, I have purposely slowed my movements and activities down, where I'm actually more aware of what I'm doing. And what I found is that I'm actually accomplishing more, and I'm having less of a kickback of pain, of spasms, of balance issues, and everything else. And so pausing and relaxing and slowing down and becoming aware of the way that I move has made a tremendous impact in how I feel, as well as the imbalanced disequilibrium issues that I have. So I just want to share that piece as well.
Yeah, that's great. It helps because you're not putting so much information into your brain simultaneously when you're moving quickly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Time to adjust in between movements. That's great insight, Tom.
So it actually increases the amount of time that I'm able to do things, whereas my fear previously was, if I don't get done now in this small window as much as I can, I'll get nothing done.
Yeah.
So by doing that, I'm putting more stress on my body. So I'm increasing the time I can actually do things, and I'm enjoying them more.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
Farias has the eye tracking on his online program that you can do cervical dystonia, that has the eye exercises. It comes up on your tablet or computer screen, and it tells you, and you have to follow the lights or the dots. Has all these different like vagal nerve stimulation, parasympathetic balancing stimulations, but they're all visual and audio programs that you go through. So if anybody hasn't tried those programs, and they have cervical dystonia, I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Because it's holistic, it's comprehensive. It's got everything involved in the program. You're going to be doing the physical therapy, but you're going to be doing the eye and almost like the meditative exercises as well. And so I highly recommend giving them a go if anybody hasn't tried them yet. At least pay, like, do them for a month so that you can learn the exercises and you can get familiar. But those are also things that a physical therapist would help you do. You put the light on your forehead, you track the wall. Huh?
Where can you access these?
Or you can access Dr.
Yeah,
Frias's?
Oh, is that Dr. Fries?
Right, Dr.
Yeah.
Frias, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
does
so
it, I think, through Facebook, but it's
It's a
monthly program.
yeah, the friastechniques.com, Frias Techniques, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we can talk more about that later too. So Mickey, do you have things to say?
I was gonna say, definitely that Dr. Fries has a phenomenal resource in terms of some of the eye head movement things that he has on his website, and and as he's taught from the get-go, again, really sort of keeping your eye in one place as well. You move your head, fixing your eyes, doing those kind of things. So I can, and I have pictures and slides, and I can send those to you of a lot of those things if people don't have access to Dr. Farias's website, because I think they're really phenomenal exercises, and I would highly recommend that you guys work on those. And then there's again, from a visual point of view, it's really important to focus on an object initially. So because that helps you, if you can find that something to focus on, then you use that as your guide as you move away from it. So when you're walking, I think Karen, this might be helpful for you too, is when we walk, instead of looking straight ahead or looking down, if you track your gaze off kind of on the diagonal ahead of you, and then when you walk and you're walking forwards, but you're keeping your gaze tracked on that kind of keeps that, again, that kind of connects your eyes to your head, to your brain, to your uprightness. And it's a strategy that you can use when you're walking to kind of keep that gaze always engaged, and keep your brain engaged, and keep your neck on body reflexes working for you. There's one that you can do kind of, which is a vestibular and eye one at the same time, which is, I do this with my classes. So I like to you can take a little ball, or you can take a little pillow, right? And you can do this sitting, or you can do it standing. And if you have a vestibular component with this, it can mess with it. So just go really slowly and gently with this. But if you take a little ball and you track it, and you can choose your range of motion that you go through, but you're tracking that ball. So your eyes go with the ball. So you are going to do some head neck range of motion in this. And we're working our way through the vestibular, through your inner ear, and then slowly changing direction.
Yeah, we do this in class.
Like so. And then if once you've kind of got that going well, then we can really mess with it. We can take the ball in one direction, and you can take your head or your eyes in the other direction, depending on how you feel with your dystonia, but you can just do with your eyes. And then your eyes and the ball meet at midnight. Sorry, at 6 o'clock, and then your eyes and the ball meet at midnight. So we're going in opposite directions. And this is challenging for your system, right? So don't do thousands of them, and don't do them really fast, because we might lose you.
Right.
But that's again, and you can focus with eyes rather than head if you don't want to move the head. but just getting that, it disrupts your normal motor input from your eyes. So it changes that up. And it helps with vestibular input to kind of get you right in. So that was things I was thinking about. Particularly visual tracking when you're walking as well is important. And I have a gazillion other balance and other things you can do. But the other easy vagus thing to do is breathing. Because we know that as you exhale, on your exhale, that actually gives you access into the sympathetic nervous system to calm it down. So obviously you can't exhale all the time, but a lot of people, particularly when they're in pain, a lot of people who are just rushed tend to be much more upper chest breathers. They're shallow breathers, and that stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and G's things up. And so, when you're hurting, you kind of get into that sort of panic mode, that sort of, you're more puffing and everything's happening up here. And that winds up your sympathetic nervous system and will get you it'll get your dystonia more activated, and it will increase your pain. It will make you feel more out of control. And so really starting to focus on slowing down your breathing. And we think about diaphragmatic breathing, putting a hand on your sternum and a hand on your diaphragm, simple breathing, and just kind of thinking, can you, instead of letting this hand lead the way, can we at least match our hands? Soft exhale, bring it back. And that kind of shifts the breathing down into our lower lungs, activating the diaphragm. Seeing if you can match your hands. And within about 30 seconds, you'll feel that shifts your state, that changes you out of that fight flight and takes you into much more of a rest and restore, rest and digest, wherever you want to be. And it's really useful, especially when you can feel that things are a little out of control. Can we stop it? Yes, we can.
Excellent.
Well, you asked her if she's familiar with 4-7-8 breathing. It's a counting mechanism. It's the similar concept. You do diaphragmatic breathing, but you count on the inhale, you breathe in through your nose and you count 4, and then you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. And then you do that, and that's supposed to be along the same lines of like calming the parasympathetic.
There are literally, there are a million variations in breathing techniques you can do, but the key is really that your exhale is longer than your inhale.
Right. Okay.
That's fundamental. And again, there's a lot of evidence to show now that, again, some of the breathing practices, some of the wild and wacky ones like Wim Hof and all those kind of things are really fundamentally fabulous in restoring homogeneity to your body and your body systems. So
Patrick, I was going to ask you about that, but from the Wim Hof method, because you practice that already a bit, that kind of falls into this, doesn't it? Into the breathing aspects.
It does, yeah. Wim Hof, basically, he developed a style of breathing that was based on a yogic tradition. I think it was Tumo, actually. And he just made it more accessible for for the people that you don't have to do a ton of training. And it's just a style of just deep breathing in and out. And what Tom was saying is, he mentioned those things. So there's breath, and Wim Hof also incorporates cold exposure, and which is also a vagus nerve stimulator. So those are two things. And so if you're interested in looking into some Wim Hof stuff, it's very wacky, but it's also very fun. Oh yeah, the Breath book by James Nestor.
Fabulous. If you guys haven't read it, book. You should read it.
Oh
yeah, the audio book's really good too. Yeah.
The new science of the start. Oh gosh, just take
by James Nestor, and it's a fabulous book. If you haven't read it, you should definitely break it out or listen to it. Really good book.
What was the name? What was the name of the other? Will? What was it?
Put that up again a second.
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof.
WIMHOF.
If you go on YouTube, Tom, just search it. There's lots of people who show you how.
Yep.
You might not want to learn it that way, but it'll give you an idea of what it is.
Just pulled it up. Yeah. Something I just want to share also is that whenever you do any kind of breathing, any kind of breathing work, whether it be, you know, conscious or not, is to be careful about over breathing and forcing your breath, because that can create a whole slew of other health issues. So I've tried the inhale for a certain number, exhale for a certain number, and I found some of those don't fit my body's natural breathing rhythm. So I like to say, and to tell people, is to first allow your body to breathe itself. Become aware, like you were saying, with the chest and the abdomen. Let your body just see where your breath is and allow it to breathe itself before embarking perhaps on some of these other types of things, so that you don't force the breath, which can, like I said, can create more tension, more pain, it can cause dizziness, it can cause all sorts of, you know, GI issues, etc. So
Yeah,
allow the
you
body
don't want to
breathe
hyperventilate
itself.
either, right?
Hyperventilate, yes,
yeah.
exactly. But sometimes we try to force the breath in and out, where we get with trying to reduce a sympathetic type breathing, we actually create that by forcing the breath. So just allow the body to breathe itself for starters, perhaps. Just become aware of it, really, I guess, is the key thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Mindful breathing.
That's excellent. Yeah. I mean, and Patrick, you use the Wim Hof method like before you go into your cold water exposures, right? You know, you jump in the ice sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's part of the thing. It's there's a meditative aspect where the breath, you know, and you can get into like the reasons behind it. Some of the Wim Hof breathing actually is kind of, as opposed to breath that is intended to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Some of the Wim Hof breathing is actually supposed to create that excitement energy in you that actually kind of hypes you up a bit. But then if you follow his method, it's balanced out by things that go into relaxation, you know, through slowing things down afterwards. So yeah, and I totally agree with Tom. I think it's so right. I've practiced a lot of different breath works over the years, and it's really, you know, really, I think most beneficial to kind of get more aware of what your body wants to do, you know, and just bring more awareness to like how does the breath want to come in and out on its own accord before you really start manipulating it.
Yeah, very good. Good advice. Wow. Well,
You know, and even just coming back to that thought of breath, just if we think about simple things, for example, for most of us who are female, we've kind of been taught to suck in our tummies all of our lives, right? How many of you have done that?
Everybody.
Right. So the minute you suck in your tummy, you've actually changed the relationship between your diaphragm and your pelvic floor and how you manage your intra-abdominal pressure, which is essentially your core strength. That's where your core strength is. So if you're trying to breathe and keep your tummy sucked in it the whole time, you can't do that. Not very well. And so just again, things that we might have picked up over time without even realizing it, you know, just kind of, it's all right to let you have your belly work, you know. It should be working eccentrically, it should go in and out, right? So again, if you can't practice other breathing, if you haven't figured out just how to breathe.
yeah, excellent. That's really good. So yeah, well, does anybody else have any other experiences they want to share?
I might add just a footnote. I had really severe dizziness after a dental appointment where they used this technique called ultra cleaning, which I parallel to pressure washing or jackknife, and it was I got out of the chair and I felt dizzy and like I was drunk, and it took me about a week to get over it.
Yeah.
I did Mr. Hogan's tilting exercises at first, and that helped quite a bit, but I would just warn you people to be careful with the ultra cleaning, unless it's just me. I don't know.
Tell them what the doctor told you, Tom.
Well, the doctor wasn't sure if it was because of that or if it was because I was leaning way back.
Yeah.
Not up too fast, I don't know. But
It's probably part of your neck too. Could have done that. Yeah. And Helen, did you have a comment that you want to make about the tennis ball for your with your feet?
Well, this is Mickey, and I do it every morning now, and it really helps with your balance and just keeping your feet stimulated. She will show you.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Ball thing. Yeah. Want to show that, Mickey? Your feet.
Yeah, Mickey could tell it. I could have that.
Maybe some of you already know this, but
This is something that I start all of my classes with, and again, it was same with again, it's trying to get people to have better awareness of their feet, how they moved, and people talk about rolling a tennis ball for plantar fascia. It doesn't necessarily work well for that, but it works really good for really well for sensory input into your body. So just starting with a tennis ball. If you stand on one leg, you're balancing. If you need to hold on for balance, you can. Hang on, I don't have my progressives on. But so just rolling, taking your time, rolling the instep of your foot, and then feeling as you roll into the middle of your foot, rolling into the outer border of your foot. And again, what you can feel here is, we've got all the sensation in our foot. We've got multiple ligaments, bones, tendons, muscles. And you can start to feel what's your sensation, how well does it work? And then I like to have people roll that ball underneath the metatarsal arches where your toes join onto your foot, stretch your toes around the ball and squeeze, because then we're starting to work those intrinsic muscles, the small muscles in your feet that shoes kind of shut off. Then we can put our heel down, stretch the toes around the ball and squeeze. There's an osteopath from New Zealand called Philip Beach, very interesting guy, and he calls shoes sensory deprivation chambers for your feet. And his kitchen floor is all rocks. He has it all done with rocks, and he walks around in bare feet all day. So again, if I go stand on the other foot, I'm balancing, I'm doing the same thing. It also allows me to do a comparison between my feet, and are they the same? Is the sensation the same? Is one stiffer? Is one a little bit more painful? All good information to know before you put weight onto that foot and expect it to be there for you. And again, stretching underneath the metatarsal arch, squeezing, putting your heel down, squashing and stretching. And
Ginger, pineapple.
again, because toes are so fundamental for balance, just again, I know Patrick does a lot of this, but thinking about your big toe, your little toe either side of your heel, your weight shift, bringing yourself up and over there, lifting 10 toes,
Fresh, whatever.
toes second.
We have enough for breakfast.
Get the idea.
We have a lot of berries and we have more
Here
strawberries.
we go.
Yeah, maybe. And then,
Somebody's
Oh,
talking.
you've got lots of other noises going on. I'm gonna switch out.
We gotta have frozen banana.
oh, that's true. I'm gonna be finished in about 5
One
minutes.
second.
One in the low, right?
Whoever's talking is there. So, is there? Yeah. Oh, do we lose people? I think I lost our video or sound here. What happened?
We're still here.
I think we're
I'm
here.
here. I'm
Yeah, we're
muted
good.
because there was a lot of people who were, there was a lot of.
Yeah.
There's some people talking, there's some people talking. Yeah, it's a constant practice. So everything we talk about, it's like, Tom just sent over these cards, that have been really good to give a lot of people, and they've seen them, like you said, every step towards your goal is just as important as the goal itself. Every step, everything we do here. So never give up, never stop climbing. So I have a nice picture of Mountaineer they sent us. So we never lose hope. Don't ever give up. The day after you give up might be the day of your life changes. So those are all really good sentiments that Tom sent by us. So great to have those there. Thank you, Tom.
Right.
Yeah. So the people. So those are all just amazing, great information. And if anybody has any other comments, we have time, but if people have everything we want to say, is anything you want to say about it, Ellen?
No, it's
Yeah.
just a lot of information.
Yeah. It's all great information, everything.
You talking about the breathing, they have breathing apps. I have a
Oh,
breathing
reading
app.
up to,
But
yeah,
again, like
yeah.
Patrick says, yeah.
Yeah.
There's here, I can hold it up to your screen so everybody can see it. There's, my boyfriend actually got me these years ago. They're called yoga toes. They're made in the US. They're silicone toe spacers.
Uh-huh.
And for people that are getting into the tennis ball exercises or do dance or yoga, you can just put these on when you're at rest. Yeah, they're there. Sorry, it's on my phone. I can send a link out to everyone. But they're really, really amazing. You just put them when you're resting. You just put them on and they space out your toes, and then you'll find your balance is so much better after wearing them for just like 5-10 minutes a day. And it just stretches out all those muscles because we're constantly shoving our feet into shoes all day.
Right.
And so this is stretching this is stretching them back out. They're squishy. Some people find them a little uncomfortable at first because you're not used to having your toes
That's
spaced out.
fine.
But I really recommend them.
Banana too.
Regular banana.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's called yoga toes.
Like getting a pedicure.
It's a little bit of
Yeah,
frozen.
a little bit like but they're wider than the
Right.
foam pedicure things, but don't walk around in them just when you're resting.
Yeah, I remember Patrick did a program one time on bunion prevention. And that's a kind of the idea, that so often our toes are deforming over time because of being in shoes, and we don't do exercises, but just doing exercises like that to stretch out the tissues is probably what's necessary. You still there, Patrick? Or I think you lost.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, good. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can say about your feet?
Little cross.
You've done programs about your feet.
Yeah, well, I mean, not much. It's so interesting because there's so much you could talk about for the feet, but we started to talk about stretching, getting things mobile. It's a fascinating thing to notice that a lot of the shape and function of our foot is actually controlled outside of the foot too. So our hips, the rotation of even our shin bones within and relative to our knee joint is, they all change the shape of our foot a little bit, and we have the ability to control that. I mean, that's a little deeper than we have time for today, but one thing I would recommend or for balance is because, well, this is a whole other topic too, but is to start looking at shoes. I mean, because we talked about like the problem with our toes not functioning well is because we're cramming them into these shoes. Well, one solution to that is to find better shoes. And so there's really a lot of companies now that are starting to develop more foot-shaped, like natural foot-shaped shoes. And I just would like to send out a link that I think everybody should check out. It's a restorative exercise teacher named Anya has created a website called Anya's Reviews. That's ANYAS Reviews.
Anya's Reviews.
Where she has reviewed multiple shoe companies with her review about how good all these shoes are for your feet. And so it's a really good resource to check out if you're looking ever in the market for trying to find better shoes that are going to do better things for your feet and your balance. I would suggest, check that out. You'll find some really cool shoe companies.
Like the shoe that that Patrick got me into is called Tedivo, and it's a
that's one of them.
And and you can just roll this shoe up into a little ball, and because it allows flexibility of your foot and allows you to feel the ground. And I think it's really it's almost like what you're saying. In a sense, you're doing exercises throughout the whole day because by wearing the right kind of shoes.
Yeah, not putting your feet into sensory deprivation chambers, like Mickey said, but you're actually keeping the sensation alive by having more of a flexible foot-shaped shoe.
Very good, very good. All great advice. Yeah.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
back to the standing up and sitting down from the chair. And then you guys mentioned that we tend to lean forward too far. Can I like see how that looks appropriately and how it looks inappropriately? Because I lean forward a bit, but I don't know if it's too much.
Yeah, it's all in it. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I wasn't sure if I muted myself. It really is on a spectrum, so don't expect it to be 100% perfect.
Right.
I am looking for, sorry, I'm not very organized for this right at this moment. Here we go.
And I guess maybe part of the question is it that we put our heads forward or is it that we put our whole body forward?
It's both. That more depends on the person, I would say. Like Tom was saying, sometimes we come up and we're leaning forward with our head. Some people have this thing going on. You know, the optimal is to find more of a vertical line so that we're carrying the weight of our body through the skeleton all the way through into the ankles and heels. Rather than having some part of us leaning forward. So some of us might have a forward projecting head, but a lot of times what people do to compensate for that is they push their hips forward. So now my head's back, but I haven't actually changed the actual shape of my body just by doing this. So we kind of have to build from the floor up, and what I was talking about as far as coming up from a chair and standing vertical, or just when you're standing, is really watching maybe from your center of gravity, from your hips, whether they tend to be pushing forward, and see if you can bring them back over your heels a little more. I don't know if you can see this on camera, it's kind of difficult, but there's like, you can play with something like a string that's weighted, like a plumb bob that carpenters use. And if you were able to line up your hip joint to your ankle, it should be vertical. If I was leaning forward, you can see my weight is pushing way forward in front of pretty much in front of my foot. And you can awaken and innervate like all these back muscles of your butt and your hips and your hamstrings. The more you just send your hips back a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, what it looks like ideally is more of like a vertical leg and not diagonal.
Okay, but when you're actually literally like coming up, like there's the bend up or just
that's all on that's going to be in a spectrum depending on your strength profile.
Can you just do it once so I can see? From
Yeah,
the side
so the parameters, some things to like play with to start to help build some better strength is, yes, be aware if you're leaning too far forward with your head. Now there may be some balance. In order to get your hips back, your body might have to go forward a bit. The stronger you get, the less you need that.
Okay.
But at first, yeah, that might happen a little bit. What we would just want to be cautious of is that we're not stretching forward with the neck so much.
Okay.
But it's really here. And so what I had talked about before is, and this is just a nice game to help develop some better backside strength, is try to see if you can get your knees to ankles to stay vertical. So your knees aren't going forward, but you're trying to come up and down, keeping those knees right over your ankles. And it just requires that your hips do a little more work.
Okay.
That's all. Okay. And as far how far your body is upright is, just depends on how much you're able to stabilize, doing that motion.
So some of it's just building the strength to, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then I guess just one comment on kind of the more natural barefoot shoes. I will just caution people. I had orthotics and then I was like, ooh, barefoot shoes, these are amazing. So I jumped from my orthotics to my barefoot shoes. And then I started training for a running relay race. It was a real bad plan. So just use some caution.
Yeah.
Very slowly and surely.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to go slow.
Yes.
That's been the experience.
Can I just say one thing regarding standing up? A visual that I try that helps me to not lean with my head as I try and imagine there's a string attached to the top of my head up to the ceiling, and then I'm moving up with that, almost like a marionette in some ways. I'm moving up with that, and that to me helps me use the lower part of my body, as Patrick was suggesting. So that visual right there of lifting up versus lifting out or pushing out. And if you notice, it'll be good to have somebody take photographs of you in various positions that you are sitting at your desk, while you're eating, while you're watching television, while you're driving, while you're doing anything, and see how much you naturally have a forward head posture. Because the more you do this, the more gravitational weight is going to be on you, and more stress is going to be on your neck, and therefore the rest of your half played Jenga body, as I would mention before. So to try and keep, you know, the ears over the shoulders the best we can. And for me, I like that visual of a string pulling me up and bringing me down. And that really helps to engage that lower part of the body that Patrick's been referring to and talking about strengthening.
Okay, thank you.
Good cue for
That's a
how
good-
our neck interacts with our lower body,
Yeah.
and that it is all connected,
Yes,
you know.
all connected. That's right, exactly. All
And just remember that we all get into habits of movement and habits of daily activities that we don't even realize we're doing oftentimes. I know when I look down, my head is way off center, and
Yeah,
I can only tell if I look up with my eyes, but it feels totally normal because I've been doing it for so long.
right.
So I have to slowly correct that,
Yeah,
because it's become a natural movement for my body to do.
right.
So that's why photographs are really good feedback to have, so you know exactly where you actually are sitting, standing, moving, walking, talking, all those kind of things.
I notice more core and back exercises with yoga help my hip quite a
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
And then if I'm not really engaging my lower front core enough, that my dystonia, my hip acts up, and then my
Yeah.
my IT band around there.
Yeah.
But engaging the core, it strengthens, but it's tricky with generalized because you have truncal dystonia that
Sure.
can become active with too much ab stuff. So that's why yoga is good, because it's stretching it
Putting it all
as
together.
it's strengthening it. And that's why I really prefer that over just doing, like muscular build-up exercises.
Yeah,
or something
no
like
idea.
that.
Try to use the whole body together rather than
Right, right,
individual
right.
muscles if you
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
I notice
exactly.
a huge difference between just like doing like HIIT training or working out
Yeah.
versus yoga and dance. As
Yeah.
far as my dystonia goes, yoga and dance by far are way more strengthening and balancing,
Yeah.
and they incorporate breathing. And so
Yeah.
when you're doing all of those things, it's not the same as like when you're just, I'm not discounting
Mhm.
doing those types of exercises. I just think repetitive motion exercises can be tricky with dystonia. You have to be selective, but
Yeah, it all works together, you know,
Yeah.
but yoga and dance especially has been good for all of us, you know. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it, just because we started off with sort of balance and stuff like that too. Like Qigong and Tai Chi, there's really good literature for that, improving balance and strength if you do it on a regular basis. And again, like yoga, like dance, it's rhythmic. There's, there's emotion to it, and it's that just, if you haven't tried it, or that's something that if you haven't found something that speaks to you, that go check that out too.
yeah, great point.
Can you suggest an app for the Tai Chi? I mean,
Let me go dig for you, and I'll find out.
YouTube.
Because there's several Lam, I think is his last name. He's done a whole bunch of like DVDs and things for I think actually for the Arthritis Foundation. And I'll dig some names up and I'll send them to Dr. Hogan. I'll send you some
great.
information for that. Again, it's a low bar to entry. You don't need a whole lot of extra things to be able to do it, and it's very valuable.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things online, you know. Patrick's courses in aligned movement are really good too, you know, so there's things that you can do on your own that you don't have to go places for, you know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Any other observations from everybody? We don't have to talk about even besides a different topic. Anything else from Dystonia in general that anybody wants to bring up?
I read a really great book last year that I'm obsessed with. It's by a neuroscientist who wrote You Are the Placebo. I'm trying to remember oh gosh. I have to look it up, but he wrote another book. It's all about meditation and like changing the way your body responds to illness and the way you predict your own illness.
Oh, right.
And so it's changing the way you think and feel about your body
Mhm.
and wellness, and it's very holistic, and
Yeah.
but it's all based on kind of healing yourself
Mhm.
with your mind and your focus and your thoughts and your meditation. I really recommend it, especially for dystonia. We get trapped in our bodies a lot
Mhm.
and in our pain, and doing meditation at that level allows you to kind of escape that
Yeah.
and experience and get a little break from it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. What's his name?
Joe Dispenza.
Yes, Dispenza. He wrote Becoming
Dispenza.
Supernatural, and I'm like
Yeah.
obsessed with both of those books. For anybody
yeah.
who's looking for like a little gateway into meditation and wants
Mhm.
to try some new things.
He also has some wonderful YouTube videos too to listen to.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a great, the guy's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
he's amazing. Yeah, I recommend. We can send links. I can give you some notes from the meetings.
Actually, probably really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
send those out to people.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
loved it.
it's a whole concept that thought really is more than just some electrical activity in the brain. It really
Right.
does change your brain.
Right,
You know,
right.
we know that that. In fact, there was an article just recently read about people who think about aging differently. So
Mhm.
instead of thinking about aging negatively, they think about it being positively. Those people may have add another 7 years to their life.
Yeah.
But we know that people, how you think does change how your body works. And so it's meditation and positive affirmations are really important. Even the things like Tom was saying, don't ever lose hope. Hope is an extremely important part of our medical therapy, really.
Yeah.
To that point about how we think about things, when we live with a condition that's chronic, like we all do, it tends to become for a lot of us the most significant thing in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we look at all the things that are wrong with us.
Yeah.
But if you think about all of the amazing things that our bodies do, when we were talking just about the feet before with Mickey and Patrick, all the different joints and muscles and the things you can do with just the feet alone, just the eyes alone. If you think about, and here's an example I'll give. The other day I was bringing groceries in from the car and I was holding on into one bag. I had a water bottle in my other hand. I had my keys. And while I was walking, trying to balance and hold everything, I was manipulating my fingers in order to find the right key on my keychain to use while I was talking to someone, while I was not even paying. So if you think about the amazing things the body can do,
Yeah.
it's there. So my point in saying this is that there's far more right with us than wrong with us.
Right.
And the more we can become aware of and become really grateful for and practice gratitude for all the amazing things that our bodies do while living with the things that it's not doing the way that's not pleasurable, like with dystonia and pain and everything else, it can help to alleviate that stress that comes with our lives, our daily lives. And that can put us closer to that area that you're talking about thinking differently and the work Joe Dispenza is doing and changing that mindset, because it really can make a big difference.
Yeah, excellent. That's really good.
Different,
really good
more positive thoughts, gratitude, bliss, love. They have higher electromagnetic frequency
Right.
thoughts than more negative thoughts.
Right.
And so they influence our own electromagnetic field
Mhm.
in a better way. And so getting balance there and feeding those thoughts and encouraging those thoughts and those emotions. You actually have to have the higher emotion connected to the thought to create more energy in it.
Excellent.
But when you get that symbiosis between thought and emotion, it really, really becomes a powerful thing. And I think we've experienced that, with faith and religion and different things, but you can experience it with thought and meditation as well. But very, very awesome advice. Thanks.
There's no
So
question.
be careful about how much news you watch.
Right.
Yeah.
So true.
That's bad medicine.
Yeah.
Positive
Too much of the good news.
positive thought truly is good
Yeah.
medicine. It's not just some fluff. We're talking. It's really truly good medicine. And negative thought is essentially a negative lifestyle function. So you got to turn around.
It becomes habitual.
Yeah.
And so what do they say? It takes 21 days to really form or change your habits. Well, if you want to start thinking more positively, you focus on that for 21 days. You'll be amazed at what an impact it has.
There is a good workout for it. It's got fabulous.
And then you're listening. We have your. She came up for a reason. So yeah. Any other observations about balance? I mean, people. I know there's people online that have had trouble with balance recently, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Maybe Miss Moore, you're gonna do. Any other comments? There you go.
No comments.
Oh, there you go. Good. Yeah, I was hoping I hoping you chime in. Yeah, because I know you've had trouble with balance.
I made it.
Yeah. Tell us what kind of problems you've had recently with your balance.
Not really anything with balance.
Yeah, or dizziness. I know there's something that you were saying. Some equilibrium.
I was having some issues with the nerve endings in the back of my head. It was causing a fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
And it was hard to describe.
Yeah. That's right.
And it did make.
I know it was something wrong in your ears. That's right. I was thinking about. I was trying to bring that back. That's right. I remember now. And it's it's interesting how often people develop ringing in the ears, even with dystonia. Because and sometimes just doing Botox around the edge of the ears or in the upper neck ear muscles can relieve that. And there's people that all the time that say that they know their botulinum toxin, whatever type we're using, is wearing off because their ringing in the ears start coming back. So there's definitely an association with that tensor tympani muscle in the neck or in the ear, and in relationship to your cervical dystonia. So I think it all fits together, doesn't it? Yeah, very good. So any other comments about or anything related to dystonia we could talk about? Or we're probably going to want to have another symposium coming up in the fall. So we need to start thinking about topics for that again. Yeah.
Oh, I was interested. Has anybody tried transcranial magnetic stimulation for their dystonia?
Transcranial magnetic stimulation, for people who didn't hear that, the question is about transcranial magnetic stimulation.
I've been reading about it, but I haven't tried it. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering if anybody's given it a whirl.
Right, it's something that is right now officially approved for people with severe depression, and it's pretty remarkable how well it works. You put it in a chair that transmits magnetic waves through the brain in just the right way to go into transmits down to the deeper middle parts of the brain, and they have been working with it with dystonia. Yeah. They've had a number of universities that are doing studies on that.
Is doing it.
Yeah.
Here in Washington.
And here in Washington now too, because we're just in a couple places in the south. Well, that's good to know that, because the whole idea is, can we produce some kind of a more of a balance in the brain by sending these magnetic waves into the brain, just as it does with depression, where people have uncontrolled depression that relieves that with these magnetic waves. Can those magnetic waves actually suppress the activity in some ways, almost like a deep brain stimulator?
Right. Yeah.
But stays with it. Yeah. It takes you have to do it every day for 30 days in a row.
Do you? Is it a lot?
And it's really expensive, but
if it works.
But it's covered, but it's all insurance covered for depression.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that if we get enough studies done that demonstrate that it works for dystonia, that, you know, it takes some commitment because you have to go into this facility that has this magnetic stimulator
Right.
every day for like 30 days. But
Yeah.
but then it does people, for depression at least, people have had long-term control that they
That's
never had before.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I get a lot of relief, and I can add it if we do notes from the, I can type up some notes
Oh,
or
that'd be great.
links to things from the meeting
Oh, we
today.
can, we can send it out to everybody.
You know, kind of just like, and we can send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Just like talking points and vagal nerve stimulation.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like a notes thing.
In fact,
but,
it'd really be nice to do some meeting notes, maybe some
Right, I can
comments
do
from
those.
each person, you know, and maybe like
And with
Mickey's
links to
Mickey's
things,
eye exercises and
yeah.
links, you know, that would really be
And then
nice,
we
you
can
know,
collaborate.
because there's a
and
number
get
of people
some
that
notes
wanted to be here that couldn't be here.
Right.
And so that would be nice.
Yeah,
That's a great
probably
tip,
helps.
Andy.
But I get a lot of benefit from my red light therapy.
Oh.
It's a near infrared, it's a
Uh-huh.
mirror, it's made in Germany. I have it at home.
Oh,
I used to go to the spa and they had a red light room.
uh-huh.
And it always made a huge difference on my
Yeah.
muscles and helped my pain. And this thing is magical. I mean,
Wow.
it's amazing how much it works, and it's non-invasive. It's not
Yeah.
a pill I'm taking. It's not a supplement.
Yeah.
And we all know how, like, when our muscles get tight, they get rigid, and you can put it as close to your muscles as you can stand or put it far. It really helps.
Hey, there's your baby. Oh, there's a little guy. We've heard a lot about. Boy, he's gotten big enough.
My goodness.
Look at that.
Look at that.
That is gorgeous.
He is cute.
Unmute you, Mikey.
Hello.
There you go.
Hello, this is Elijah.
Oh, look at that. What a gorgeous cow. Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
A little guy. And you'll probably switch me off.
It's such a nice smile too. Yeah. He's kind of very happy.
He's
Very
teething.
Yeah.
Very drooly.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Bye. Very cool. Bye.
I don't know if you needed that, but I thought that would be fun.
No, that was good positive.
Yeah.
Like I said, positive thought. Positive thought, you know? That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Park, I was just curious. Hello, so over there in the shadows. I haven't heard anything about the deep brain.
Deep brain stimulator?
Yeah, they
Well, it's still around, you know, it's a very invasive technique, you know, and you know, you have to implant electrodes into your brain. And as opposed to Parkinson's, where it can work pretty quickly, in deep brain stimulation in dystonia, it's almost like it has to produce a neuroplasticity change. And so people, they get the deep brain stimulator, turn it on, they go through a huge amount of effort and discomfort to have surgery in the brain. And yet they may not notice any benefit for 6 months because it slowly starts working. So it's not something we would ever do unless we can't find. And maybe for people that need it, that aren't getting adequate treatment with benefit from what we're having now, it may be that that's going to be. I mean, other measures like transcranial magnetic stimulation, things that are less invasive, may become our next mode of therapy. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if the TMS is going to become kind of almost like for people that aren't eligible for DBS, if TMS is it's going to be more accessible
or something to do first.
Helpful.
Yeah. So even though it's expensive, it's less expensive than surgery in the brain. So
and then do you know if with the TMS, if they have to know, because we couldn't really quite figure out with all the brain scans where my dystonia is, it in my basal ganglia or in my cerebellum, because I have an abnormal shaped cerebellum.
Yeah.
And so, but we couldn't find anything weird or hinky with the basal ganglia. So it's like, do you have to target it specifically?
Yeah, they do. Well, they do. They have a specific target for depression, at least. I'm not sure where they're targeting it for.
Too.
And that's the case with dystonia. We don't know where dystonia comes from. You know, and it really seems to be maybe a combination of a number of different areas simultaneously, to the prefrontal areas, to the basal ganglia, to the cerebellum, all working together to produce that overactive impulse to the muscle.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
that reminds us that.
Tracy had a question about the red light therapy for neck stuff.
Yeah.
So if you they're not expensive. There's a physical therapy company called OTPT out of Minnesota, and they actually sell their own little gadget, and they're not expensive. They're like $15-20.
Oh,
awesome.
And it's a headband that you put around your head, and it's got a little laser pointer on it.
Yeah.
And you can download. It was originally developed for people who have chronic neck pain post MVA and stuff, like post accidents and stuff like that too, because what they found with people who have chronic pain is in their neck is that they motorically are not very good. They don't know where they are in space, right? Does that sound familiar? And so they've developed this using this little pointer that you put on your head, and that you can download tracks to sort of to work on, so that you can work on all different kind of small ranges of motion or bigger ranges of motion. And you're focused on the little laser light. I don't think it's a laser. I think it's just a red light. But but you can buy. And again, I can send you some links to them, because there's a physical therapy group online has a bunch of videos on it as well. But they sell charts, and you can download charts, and you can make your own charts. But the pointers are not that expensive at all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Great.
really helpful.
Great
And
information.
it's small movements, but like
It's
movements. Yeah.
And again, it's tying in the visual cues with your neck, so it's really good.
All right.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
It's called
OTPT. They're out of Minnesota.
Okay, I wrote it
Yeah,
down.
we
I'll
can-
put it in the.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, we can send me a link. Yeah, and we can,
And you can even get the stuff and make your own from Home Depot if you want to. Like with a level of but it seems sort of really techy, but it's actually not that techy, and it's kind of clever in how it works.
Oh, excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, these are all things,
I know.
everything we've talked about today is a whole matter of putting the whole treatment together,
Right.
Because people come in sometime, they just want, so you do something, put injections in your neck and be better. It's not
No,
gonna
you have
happen.
to do it all.
You gotta do other things besides,
Yeah.
besides just medical therapies. I mean, the whole physical and psychological, treatment is just as important as any medical therapy.
And diet.
Yeah.
good site.
Yeah.
Great science. Well, everything we talked about is.
Is it wrong around?
Okay, that'll make for good.
I might have done dyslexic. It's OPTP. I might have done it the wrong way around, but I'll send you a link for it anyway.
Got it.
Good.
I have a question.
So,
Can I ask Dr. Hogan about this question?
uh-huh.
Okay, so my daughter, my husband is convinced that my daughter, she has full body dystonia that comes and goes about 6 or 8 times a day. She also has extremely loose joints and is very, very hypermobile. And her dystonia is getting worse and worse to the point where she curls into a C shape and can put her bottom of 1 foot on top of her head.
Wow.
He said, why can't we brace her? And I just don't know that that's appropriate. We're to the point where we've tried so many medicines that she's sleeping almost all the time when she's not curled up 6 to 8 times a day. And we're going to do a pain pump fairly shortly for baclofen and maybe pain meds too. At this point, just baclofen. But is there a reason you don't brace people with dystonia? Because it's her legs, her arms, her feet, her hands, her back really crunches in. Neck will go to one side. Can you tell me about bracing? Yes or no?
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a good point. On the one hand, in general, with cervical dystonia, we don't, for example, just that one aspect of dystonia, we don't often do that only because you don't want to weaken essentially muscles in the neck that you want to compensate with. In a situation like hers, it's more extreme, where the whole body is activated.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's ever an issue. I'm not, I totally admit I don't have experience with that. So I don't know, Mickey, if you've had an experience with bracing and dystonia.
The general reason we don't brace when there's spasticity, and I realize dystonia is not spasticity, it is because you tend to get into a battle with the with the dystonia. So you're trying to brace it to keep it still, but your body's going to keep fighting it. And so it can actually fire it up and make it worse.
Right.
But you know, in terms of your daughter, who sounds like she's having just such an issue, and have you discussed that with her team?
Let me tell you, we have been to so many neurologists and so many places.
I imagine.
And, you know, they just say, oh, you know, if she would just go into get some psychiatric help, and if she would just do these exercises. Well, you know, she's to the point she's been bedridden for years, and it's not. She's mentally sound as can be. She just gets gaslighted all the time. The last hospital stay, they told her, if you wanted to get out of this bed, get up and walk, you could. So I will tell you, she can't. She's got willpower. I don't know what, but it really, not really. I mean, our team has been really slow to come together, but I'm finally feeling we're getting somewhere with that. So I know what you're saying about the antagonistic thing. When if you tried to gently pull her muscles back to the right position, she tightens. So I see what you're saying. It would just be a struggle. And the other question is, any idea what to do when it's episodic? Because they're saying the baclofen pump is kind of iffy because she doesn't have the spasms all the time. It's just more towards some movement. Is there anything else you could recommend? She can't do PT and OT. They've dropped her twice, even coming to the house, because her hands curl up so badly that she's in so much pain and everything, that we just can't get anywhere right now.
But I'm glad you're getting the pump though. Does she have a pump at all now?
No, she did a trial and it was like, okay, but it's hard to tell because she's still curled up twice afterwards. But
even though it's episodic, I mean, you certainly get so much better results with baclofen using the pump and along with pain medicine simultaneously.
Right.
So, you know, that's going to be hopeful. You know, in general, at least in people that have dystonia storms that we talk about, that with cervical dystonia, people do use medications like lorazepam and some of the benzodiazepines that just cut down some of the electrical energy coming from the neck. They're coming from the brain, I mean, coming to the body. And if it's coming from the brain and your brain is sending out this barrage of electrical impulses, what can you do to calm that down? You know, and that we haven't found very much else except for using the benzodiazepines like the lorazepam and then again the baclofen and the tizanidine are the only ones that we have.
The tizanidine, I have generalized, which is basically what she's experiencing, but she's getting a storm or episodic. The tizanidine, I get it 24/7 and with like weird different episodes throughout the day. The tizanidine has been the most helpful for me. So if she hasn't tried that, I would highly recommend that because she can take it when she's storming.
Right, too. Yeah.
So
that's what we do. We found that trying to keep them at bay, all it did was make her tired. She was still going to go into so I give her tizanidine and diazepam and Enbrel and ketamine, and that helps. That gets her out of them.
That's exactly right. In ketamine too. Yeah, you're right. You know, so you kind of are using all the available tools that we have.
I would also recommend a rehab specialist or a physiatrist as opposed to just straight neurologist. I've had a lot of success with my generalized dystonia with seeing a physiatrist. It's a different type of specialty.
Rehab, Sure.
Okay. Catherine, does she have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome too?
Oh, in my opinion, yeah, she does have a very, very, very odd genetic thing that she and her twin were both born with, and that causes optic nerve atrophy and ataxia. They started out that way, and then she got in an auto accident where we were rear-ended, and that set off this last chain of problems. Whereas her brother was in the same automobile, and he has never had the limberness that she has. So She does act like Ehlers-Danlos as far as the total, when she was born, she was just super loose, whereas twin brother wasn't. And she also has the trifecta of gastroparesis and, what else? The trifecta that comes with EDS,
Yeah.
gastroparesis and the mast cell problems and
Which I had
yeah,
mobility.
whatever it was. She
Yeah.
has all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And,
Boy,
and,
terrible.
and her brainstem is okay?
as far as we know, I mean, she's had an upright eye or
Yeah.
a MRI with flexation. She's been checked for Chiari. We've just kind of hit a
I know, it sounds
wall.
like you did. I just was thinking out loud anyway. Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
no, that's exactly right. And you have to think of all the different options, but it's a terrible, difficult situation. But I'm really hopeful in her situation that the pump that's going to get a higher concentration of medicine into her brain. It's going to work
Right.
into her spinal cord.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, well, you've answered my question as far as that. Thank you so much for your.
Yeah, wish I could do more. Eh?
I was
And
gonna
if there's
the bracing question that you had for me, when I'm stuck in a position, even
Yeah.
when I'm storming, if I'm trying to force it, it's exactly like Mickey said. It
Yeah.
becomes extremely painful to try
Yeah.
to counteract
founder
what
it.
the
Oh, yeah.
body's trying to do. And so it's a fight for the position, and it's worse. It's like if you're stuck in a car and I'm storming,
Yeah.
seat belts, and it always makes it
It makes it worse. Yeah.
to
could
try
you-
to oppose it.
Yeah, it's-
Thank you. Could you give me the name of the physiatrist that you would
What
recommend?
Are you in? Are you in Washington here?
Yeah, we're in Olympia area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got a couple of names I can send. You're on the email list, right, Catherine?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, of course, for sure.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
think
right.
the red light
Yeah.
would be,
Yeah, the red light therapy
Yeah.
would help too, doing that at home.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the problem with the bracing is that it's how our body works on this sensory feedback mechanism. So whatever sensory feedback you put in, your brain is going to respond with the motor response out. And if you're fighting something like that, it probably even worsens the
Yeah.
dystonia.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, good. Any other comments from these are all great questions. Everything we've heard has been great questions, actually. It's really fun. Yeah. I guess, if you have, I don't really have any other options. Hey, Marty, you have anything else? Yeah, good. Good. So unless we have any other issues or anything you want to talk about, we can close now, but that was really good topics and
Yeah.
and people don't, please don't hesitate to send emails in if you have questions, because we have this email list now, which is fantastic. We've helped develop that now, and so it'd be easy to divert. If I had a question that I couldn't answer, I could send it off to someone else that could. So and people in the group itself have answers to a lot of these questions, but they're living it.
Yeah.
This is such all good stuff. I'm thinking in my head, okay, when I get off work, how am I gonna fit in that tight sheet? Oh my God.
Only time.
I'm like, yeah.
Only
Stressing
time in the
out.
day. But that's the thing. But you have to still, nevertheless, you have to set up a certain amount of time.
Right.
Every
You
day.
do.
This
It's
is
almost like a part-time job. just
Yeah.
dealing
Everything
with
we do.
or a full-time job dealing
Right.
with dystonia.
Yeah.
Depending, but yeah,
Yeah.
but you're right, it's a comprehensive, like, holistic process, right? You
Right.
can't just
Right.
one lane or one thing and do it.
No.
Yeah.
You really have to, like, everything from diet to, your mental health,
Yeah.
to the physical aspect, and incorporate all those things. It makes a huge
Right.
difference, at
Yeah.
least for me.
Right. We haven't even talked about nutrition, and that's,
Yeah.
that's another
Yeah.
whole dimension.
Yeah.
So we have this, the psychological aspect of coping. We have the nutritional aspect, the physical,
Right.
the
What you're
physical
putting in.
aspect,
Yeah.
our balance,
Yeah,
and then the medical therapy kind of puts it all together.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody.
Been good to see everyone.
Even heaven's, yeah, here for you.
Good to see
Good.
you.
See you.
It was good to see everyone.
Okay,
Till next time.
till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Plushies are so great.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, we can close it out.
Thank you again, Tom. Tom and Patrick and everybody, thank you very much for your work, for your help.
It's time yet?